What is up, everybody? We've got an interesting topic today. This topic is going to be Ynnari. So there has been leaks, obviously, of all the Ynnari rules, and I've been reading into it, and I wanted to kind of give you my thoughts and opinions on it. So before we do that, hit that subscribe button. If you don't know who I am, I'm Brad Weir with War Turn Creative, and we're going to be talking Ynnari. So the interesting thing here, I've been messing around with some lists like, oh man, Ynnari might be good. It's a complete change in pace, right? So the biggest thing with Ynnari, let's start there. The biggest change is strength from death. So strength from death, what it used to be is if a unit would die around another unit that had strength for death, you can choose what you do. You can charge, move, shoot, do a psychic power, fight in the fight phase. So you can choose to do all that. So basically what would happen is people would have Dark Reapers. They would shoot them twice. They would have Shining Spears. They would move them across the board, either shoot twice, fight in combat twice, things like that. So there's a lot of fighting twice. Basically, you're getting way more firepower for a unit than it was initially intended for. So now that has changed. And basically what that has changed to is very simple. So if a unit has strength from death, what they can do is they always fight first in the fight phase, even if they didn't charge. So any Ynnari units that have strength from death are always going to fight first, even if they didn't charge. Now, if they did charge, they're also going to get a +1 to their hit rolls. Sweet. So now, basically, it's saying, Eldar, you guys are shooty, 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 shooty. Well, guess what? We just gave you this awesome close combat part of the army now that you can mix with whatever it is, whether it's Drukhari, Harlequins, or Craft Worlds. So the interesting thing about this and kind of the units that initially benefit from it right off the top of your head, right? Wraith Blades. They're going to be really strong. You've got Howling Banshees. They might not be super strong, but because they can deny Overwatch and they're always going to fight first, they're going to be really good at tying units up. Witches are going to be even stronger now with their invuln and close combat, able to tie people up, always fighting first. There's a lot of stuff. So everything that is like a close combat driven unit that you usually wouldn't see taken now has an option to be taken because they're getting even more, they're getting buffs, right? So it's very cool. I love Wraith Blades. I love the idea of having them in an army. So I think that kind of what you could end up seeing is Wraith Blades in Wave Serpents being run up the board, coming out, always fighting first, and then kind of to pair with that, what you do to help them stay alive is like the Incarn, right? I mean, you use the Incarn. You can have that Incarn come up, use a psychic power, give them invuln saves, give them feel no pains. Now those Wraith Blades are super durable, and that's always kind of been their problem is they don't have invulns, they don't have feel no pains, so they're super squishy. But now if you pair them with, an HQ that can either be in the Wave Serpent with them and buff them like that, or the Incarn who is going to give you a bubble of feel no pains. The Incarn comes up out of nowhere whenever somebody, a unit dies. You can bring that Incarn up, and then you can buff your Wraith Blade, whatever else it is. You can get a psychic power off to then, give everybody in the bubble also an invuln save. So if we kind of look at, I don't want to make the video super, super long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of point out the things that stand out to me. So the things that stand out to me is going to be the Incarn is going to be awesome. If you pair the Incarn as your Warlord with certain Warlord traits and certain relics, I think it can be super strong. So before we get into the Incarn in depth or any of the psychic powers, let's talk about what happens if you mix Craft World or Cabal or anything like that or Mask into Ynnari. So there's two kind of options. You can say, hey, I'm going to take this Ynnari character, your Vrain, Incarn, Vizark, and you can just add them into a detachment now without that detachment being Ynnari. So if you just really like one of those characters, you like their couple psychic powers they bring to the table, you can just add them into the detachment. They stay Ynnari, that detachment stays whatever it is, Cabal, Craft Worlds, anything like that. The other option is you have a full Ynnari detachment, and then anything that you bring in from these other factions that have keywords such as Craft World, Cabal, Witch, or Mask, those will now change to Reborn Drukhari, Reborn Harlequins, Reborn Assyrian. So the keywords are going to change. And what that means now is you are going to lose any of your like faction specific keywords. So you're not going to get like battle focus for Craft Worlds. And what it also does for like the psychers. So like if you have a psyker, and this is interesting, right? So if I go, hey, I'm going to take a Farseer, but it's a Ynnari Farseer, I don't have access to Doom or Executioner or Guide or Mind War. I now have access to the Revenant Discipline. So you can now add psychers into this Ynnari and have more of them taking the Revenant Discipline psychic powers. So it's interesting. I think that there's a lot of potential of mixing things up and seeing a mix of Craft World or Drukhari with, you know, some Ynnari in there, or a full Ynnari list. I think a full Ynnari list is going to be super limited to its abilities personally, and I think that you are going to have to mix it a little bit. So if you look at the psychic powers and kind of which ones stand out to me. So like the gaze, it's like okay, it's basically smite, right? So it's pretty much close to smite, except you're not targeting the closest model. You get to pick a visible one within 18 inches, and you know you're suffering 1 mortal wound, D3 or D6. So it's pretty similar to smite, but you have more likely of a chance of at least getting D3 over just 1 mortal wound. The Storm of Whisperers. So the Storm of Whisperers has a warp charge value of 6. If it's manifested, you roll 3d6, and each enemy unit within 6 inches of the psyker suffer a mortal wound on every roll of 6. I don't like that one at all because the chances of rolling a 6 is just super slim. So yeah, you're rolling a lot of dice, but the chances of actually doing mortal wounds is pretty slim. So I really don't see many people using that one. The Word of the Phoenix. So basically the Word of the Phoenix, if it's manifested by Ynnari, you can select a friendly Ynnari infantry or biker unit within 18 inches of the psyker. Does not say I have to be visible, keep that in mind. And basically you can regen D3 lost wounds. So what this is good for is this is good for, you know, if you're running shiny spears and you need them to heal or anything like that. And kind of the cool addition to this is if there's nobody that needs to regain a wound, you can bring a model back on the table with 1 wound remaining. So I think that one has its give and its takes. I could see some people using that, but I don't think you get enough return for your investment, you can say, for using that psychic power. So the Unbind Souls. Basically, the Unbind Souls is a warp charge value of 6. If it's manifested, you can select 1 enemy unit within 18 inches of the psyker. Doesn't say it has to be visible. Keep that in mind. And until the start of your next psychic phase, you can reroll wound rolls for attacks made with melee weapons from Ynnari models from your army that target that enemy unit. So I guess this is pretty similar to like Doom, right? So Doom, with the Craft World, when you're shooting and you're rerolling your wounds, now this is, hey, you're in close combat, and because this is more of a close combat thing, you're rerolling wounds. I think this is pretty cool. I mean, if you have, you know, a big squad of Wraithblades going in against a knight, or the Incarn going in against a knight, and you're gonna, you know, going for reroll of all wounds, super helpful. So the Shield of Ynned, this is by far my favorite psychic power, and everybody will be using this if they're running Ynnari. So basically it has a warp charge value of 7 if it's manifested until your next psychic phase. Ynnari units have a 5-up invuln when they're within 6 inches of the psyker. So I could basically come up with the Incarn, like I was saying before. I can get this psychic power off, and now everything within me has 5-up invuln. That is so strong. That is super strong. And it does not say wholly within. So, you know, you could take super advantage of this, and you can have 1 model within 6 inches. That whole unit is going to get that 5-up invuln. Amazing psychic power. I absolutely love that one. Now, Ancestry's Grace is the last one. It has a warp charge value of 5. If it's manifested, you select a unit within 18 inches of the psyker. Until the start of your next psychic phase, you're rerolling hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by the unit. Pretty similar to Guide. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that because that's everything. So this is just hit rolls of 1. I think there's other things that can buff rerolling, hit rolls, like if you throw an Autarch or something like that. I don't think that wasting a psychic power on it is worth it. If it was up to me, I would be using the shield, I would be using the gaze over everything else. And then if I absolutely wanted to, I would be doing Unbind Souls. I don't think that there's enough psychic powers that are super meaningful to have more than one Ynnari Psyker. I think if you're making a list, one Ynnari Psyker is all you need. If you're doing any more, you're basically just wasting points for no reason. So, Warlord traits. You have 6 to choose from. So, the Lord of Rebirth. The Warlord regains 1 lost wound at the start of each battle round. In addition, each time the Warlord loses a wound, on a 5-up, that wound is not lost. So I'm going to use these as examples as if the Incarn was always going to be your Warlord, because I don't think I would build a list without the Incarn as my Warlord. So with the Lord of Birth, I don't think it's the best one to be putting on the Incarn. I think that it's a good Warlord trait if you think your Warlord is going to be fighting a lot, needing to be resilient, but there's also other ways to give them these feel no pains and to regain wounds, so it's not something that is completely needed. So the Warden of Souls. Whilst the Warlord is benefiting from a Soul Burst action, add 1 to its attack and strength characteristics. So this one's pretty cool. If the Incarn had this, getting an additional attack is huge. Getting additional strength, it could be good, but going from, strength 6 to strength 7 usually isn't that big of a deal. This is not one that I would be looking to take. Walker of Many Paths. You can re-roll 1 hit roll or wound roll made for the Warlord each turn. In addition, if it's Battleforge while your Warlord is on the battlefield, you can roll d6 each time you spend a command point. On a 5-up, you can get a CP. So now this one is always a good one to take because you get that CP and you get to re-roll stuff. So what I would do with this is I would not give this to my Warlord. What I would do is I would use this if I was going to do like a specialty detachment or use a stratagem to take an additional Warlord trait, and then I would give this Warlord trait to a second character that isn't going to be fighting, is going to be staying alive, and is just going to sit there and let me try to CP farm some back. So I don't think that I would give this to my main Warlord. I think this would be a secondary thing that you'd use a stratagem to get additional Warlord traits. So, Fear of the Grave. Enemy units must subtract 1 from their leadership characteristic while they're within 6 inches of your Warlord. They must subtract 2 instead during any turn which an enemy unit was destroyed with an attack by your Warlord. I give 2 shits about this one. I don't even want to go into it because I think it's just useless. So, Favored of Ynnari. Let's see here. Each time your Warlord piles in or consolidates, they can move up to 6 inches instead of 3. So this is one that I think I would be choosing between. I definitely have this on the top of my list. The reason for that is if you are using the Incarn as your Warlord, consolidating and piling in 6 inches instead of 3 gives you a huge ability to jump from one unit to another. So I think that that is a really good one for the Incarn, and it's definitely one that I would be deciding between. Master of Death. So each unmodified hit roll of 6 made for an attack with a melee weapon by your Warlord scores 2 hits instead of 1. It's okay. You could choose it if you want to, but personally, out of all these, I would be choosing the Warden of Souls or the Favorite of Ynnari. I think those are the 2 best ones for your Warlord traits. So now, if we go into Relics, so we got Relics and Stratagems left, all right? So going over the Relics now. I'm going to just kind of quickly gaze a couple of these. So the Hungering Blade, not anything I would really look for. It replaces a Power Sword, Starglaive, or Husk Blade. So this is like if you have a character from one of the other craft worlds, not necessarily a Ynnari character, and you want to make them a little bit stronger, it makes them stronger. Not something I would ever do. Song of Ynnari. This is going to replace the shuriken pistol basically and just give it a little bit better of a profile. I think it's a waste of taking a relic. Mirror Gaze. Subtract 1 from all hit roll attacks from the bearer. This one's not a bad one, but I think that because there's better ones, you just wouldn't see yourself taking this. Soul Snare once per game instead of firing a ranged weapon. You can throw a Soul Snare. If you do so, you select an enemy unit within 6 inches of the visible bearer and roll a d6. On a 1, nothing happens. On 2 through 5, they suffer d3 mortal wounds. On a 6, it's d6 mortal wounds. In addition to that, the bearer regains basically those number of wounds too. So this one's kind of cool. I think that if I was to take this and I put on the Incarn and the Incarn was getting low in health, this would be something that would be good to have on him, because then you can basically throw it out there. You're not taking a penalty because he has nothing to shoot anyways. You throw it out there and you basically say, hey, you guys are going to take some mortal wounds and I'm going to heal some. So it's definitely something to keep you alive. Really, if you like it, you take it. If you don't, you don't take it. It's not one that I would take. I'm not going to take it because there's better one. So the Lost Shroud, all damage suffered by the bearer is halved. In addition, roll a d6 each time the model has a wound. On a 5 up, that wound is not lost. So this is what I was talking about. So you have the Incarn. He's your Warlord. I have no idea if you can even give him a relic. So let's state that first. Assuming you can give him a relic. If you can give the Incarn a relic, you can now give him a 5 up, feel no pain, and all damage against him is half. That's huge. If you can do that on him, that's absolutely amazing. So we'll have to clarify that because I have no idea. If you do know, you can let me know in the comments. So I'm going to assume that he can have it, but knowing my luck, he probably can't. So I would definitely pair that with him, and it would be really good. The other option would be the Locket. So each time an enemy unit is destroyed by an attack made by the bearer, you add 1 to their move and attack characteristic for the remainder of the battle. So now if you are playing the Incarn and you go from 6 attacks, you kill someone, 7 attacks, you kill someone, 8 attacks, you kill someone, 9 attacks, you kill someone, 10 attacks, you are going to be destroying with the number of attacks that you can possibly get with the Incarn. Enough said. So basically, those are like the 2 best ones on here. And if you can't do it with the Incarn and you can do it with somebody else, it's still really going to be strong if you put it on somebody who can get into combat, has a good close combat weapon. So like the Locket and the Shroud are the 2 relics that I would absolutely love to see in Ynnari every single time. The other ones are just like meh. Those 2, fantastic. Now, let's go into some stratagems. So we'll kind of go as fast as we can with these. So the Artifacts of Death, 1 or 3 CP. Before the battle, you basically can say, hey, I'm going to take 1 extra relic or I'm going to take 2 extra relics. So that's really cool. So if you have super strong characters and you want to take multiple of those relics, then you can spend a CP and you can take an additional one. So now you can take both of those relics that I would really want to take. They just have to be given to different characters. Whispering Spirits, 2 CP. So whenever an enemy unit takes a morale test within 1 inch of a Ynnari unit, before they take the test, subtract 2 from the enemy's leadership. So it's another one, just the leadership. If you want to go like anti-leadership and you want to be spending CP on leadership and, relics on leadership and stuff like that, go ahead. I would never be doing that. So Ynnari's Nest. You use this stratagem at the start of the charge phase. You select 1 biker unit from your army, and that unit can charge even if it advanced. So if you're running Shining Spears, this is like 100% made for Shining Spears, right? Where it's like 2 CP. All right. The coolest thing I think you can do with this is you can say, hey, I have a Warlock, let's say, a Craft World Warlock. He's got Quicken, and I've got Shining Spears. Your Shining Spears move. They get quickened. Well, they move and advance, they get quickened, and then they use this stratagem, and they can then charge again. They're getting in no matter where they are on the board. So super strong if your combo can work like that. United in death. If any reborn, we're just going to say reborn Eldar of any type, from your army until the end of the phase, you can add 1 to their attack characteristic of each of these units while they're benefiting from a soul burst action. So this is pretty cool. If you take in, let's say Wraith Blades again, Wraith Blades with double wielded swords, they're going to be getting 2 attacks. So Wraith Blades, let's take Wraith Blades for example, they're going to be getting 2 attacks plus 1 because of the sword, plus 1 for the charge. So now they're at 4 attacks. You use this, they're getting 5 attacks each. Really strong and really durable for 1 CP. I love it. Inevitable Fate, 2 CP. So you use a stratagem at the start of the fight phase. You select 1 enemy unit. You're re-rolling wound rolls for attacks with melee weapons done by Ynnari units when targeting that unit until the end of the phase. So this is basically very similar to the psychic power. So if you don't get the psychic power off, or you want to put the psychic power on 1 unit to do rerolls, and then another one, you can use 2 CP for it. So it gives you the versatility and kind of the choice factor. So Acolyte, use a stratagem before Ynnari Psyker attempts to do a psychic power of the Revenant Discipline. You add 3 to the psychic test. If any enemy units were destroyed this phase. So basically how you would use this, right, is you do some sort of psychic power, like Smite, let's say. You kill an enemy unit, then you can spend this CP, and you can get a +3 to your psychic test, and you can get off your next psychic power. And to me, right, that would be the one to give everybody an invuln. So now that needed a 7, now you only need a 4. So that's really dope. That's almost impossible to fail. If you do fail it, CP it, and you're going to get it off every single turn almost. Reborn Together. Use the stratagem at the start of the morale phase until the end of the phase. Add 2 to the leadership characteristics. So yeah, I mean, that's just going to help keep you alive. Whatever. If you want to spend a CP on it, I wouldn't be looking to do that. Shrine of the Whispering God. Use the stratagem before the battle. Select up to 3 units of incubi from your army. Each of these units gains a strength from death, even though it says they cannot get it. So if you're playing them and you want them to have a strength to death and attack first in combat, use that. All right, one more page, and then we're wrapping it. So, a taste for death. Use the stratagem when an enemy unit is destroyed as a result of the attack made with a ranged weapon by a Ynnari unit from your army. You add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made in melee against that unit until the end of the turn. So, there's not a lot of shooting in Ynnari, so chances of this is going to be pretty slim. But if you do get it, and then you want to make sure that that unit dies, again, I think that this is something that really only pairs well with Shining Spears. So if Shining Spears are going after somebody, they shoot them, they don't kill them, and they're going to charge them, you can use this to make sure that they get rerolls and they can take them out. Webway Ambush. This is basically just like the same webway stratagem that you'd see with Craft World. So basically with 1 CP or 3 CP, you can take 1 or 2 units of infantry, bikers, or beasts, and you can put them up in the webway. Pretty simple. Exalted of Ynnari. Using this stratagem before the battle, select 1 character from your army that is not your warlord and is not a named character. You generate 1 warlord trait from the Ynnari warlord table for them. So this is pretty cool. This is where, you could say, hey, I have this 1 warlord trait, I love this one, but I really want this one too, and you can take it. I think that that's something that's super strong, and you'll see a lot of people taking, especially because it's just 1 CP. Back from the Brink. Use the stratagem when a Ynnari infantry or biker character from your army is destroyed. You roll a d6. On a 4-up, that character comes back with d3 remaining wounds. Pretty similar to like the Phoenix gem almost, if you're familiar with that. So you die, you can come back on a 4-up. So pretty cool. I think that if you're running the Incarn and he dies, you're going to use this 99.9% of the time as long as you have the CP, because you want him to come back, even if he has 1 wound, and you can come back and get another fight off, and then possibly heal with other things. Worth. The Great Enemy. Use this stratagem when a Ynnari unit from your army is chosen to fight in the fight phase. Until the end of the phase, you re-roll against Slanesh. Cool. Fire and Fade, same exact thing that the Craft World have, except it is more CP. So the Craft World one is 1 CP. Here it is 2 CP. You can use a stratagem after Ynnari units shoots in your shooting phase. If you do so, they can immediately move. They cannot charge until the end of the turn. So can't charge. You can move again. So if you're out in front, you want to shoot people and then run away and hide to try to stay alive, you can do that. 2 CP instead of 1. Interesting. So Deadly Misdirection. 2 CP. Use a stratagem when a Ynnari unit from your unit falls back. They can still shoot and charge this turn. This is another really good one for the Incarn, Shining Spears, anything like that, where you can fall back, make them of a target, charge back, and still attack. So if you have something that you want to be able to shoot at, you can do that. Souls of the Strongest. 1 CP this one is. Use a stratagem when the enemy's Warlord is destroyed. Units from your army with the Strength from Death ability benefit from Soul Burst actions for the remainder of the battle, even if no unit has been destroyed during your turn. So basically what this is saying is, in order to get Strength from Death, which makes you attack first, and if you charge you get the +1, you don't activate the Strength from Death unless a unit was destroyed at any point in that turn. So if you haven't destroyed a unit and you're going into the fight phase and you want to make sure that you're going to fight first and get the +1 if you did charge, you can now spend a CP and just automatically make sure that everybody gets the Strength from the Death. So that's really cool because you might not have enough shooting to destroy a unit in the shooting phase, so you might find yourself spending a CP to activate that most turns. So lightning fast reactions is the same thing as Craft Worlds. It says an infantry unit from your army or your Ynnari unit that can fly is chosen as a target during the shooting phase or fight phase. You must subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks targeting them until the end of that phase. So you probably won't be using it too much in the fight phase because you're going to be fighting first, hopefully killing stuff. But in the shooting phase, if your Shining Spears are trying to stay alive or your Incarn, you can use lightning fast reactions to make it harder to hit them. So you're very familiar to seeing that if you've ever played Eldar in any way, shape, or form. So that pretty much goes over everything with Ynnari. I'm not really going to go over the exact data sheets of the 3 characters because they're pretty much the same. So my overall just kind of summary of thoughts are there's some really good relics, some really good warlord traits. I think if you are going to play Ynnari, building it around the Incarn is critical. I think that without the Incarn, I just don't see taking Ynnari as really an option. Yes, you could go and build it just for like some Shining Spears or something like that, but I think that you're just going to end up eating so many points within your army and you're not going to fully be able to benefit from it that it's not worth it. Maybe we'll see a point drop or something like that in the future for Shining Spears because now they don't benefit from the Soul Burst action. To being shooting twice or attacking twice and things like that, and maybe they'll become a little bit more balanced and a little bit more friendly to take point wise, but I don't see myself taking them. I don't see myself taking Dark Reapers because they can't shoot twice now. If you're going to take Dark Reapers, you're probably going to take them in a Craft World and not in a Ynnari so that they can benefit from other psychic powers like Doom and Jinx and things like that. So overall, I think that is a complete nerf, obviously, to what Ynnari was, and I think there is really good options on what you can do with certain units in the close combat phase and pairing them with a Drukhari detachment or a Craft World detachment. I think you can get the best of both worlds for shooting and fighting, but personally, I think it's going to be all about the Incarn. So if you're looking at Ynnari, look at the Incarn and then go from there and then say, what are some other close combat units that I can take, whether it's Witches or Banshees or Incubi or Shining Spears, Wraithblades, whatever is your kind of personal favorite, and then build your army around those kind of 2 units. That is my recommendation. That is Ynnari. I'm mad because Brad, or Brad Weir, with War Turn Creative. Like, follow, subscribe. Hopefully you like that video. Let me know in the comments all of your thoughts and fun things. I know this was a long one. Thanks for bearing through it. We'll see you next time. Peace.